Welcome to the World Hard Enduro podcast, the podcast dedicated to the world of hard enduro. This week we speak about Red Bull Romaniacs. We, as the World Hard Enduro, have gone international. We were there, we were competitors, we were spectators, we were supporters, we were media. We have the stories, you have the time and the ears. Hear about what happened, what went down from Prologue to the main race days. Yeah, it's going to be a great episode and we hope you enjoy it.
We are back in the studio after an incredible experience at the 21st Limitless edition of the Red Bull Romaniacs. My word, as a rider, Taryn as media and spectator, and Chris as looks like you got a whole bunch of participation medals. You enter a few running races.
I'll tell you about them later.
We had such an incredible experience at the Red Bull Romaniacs situated in Sibiu, Romania. Man, we did it. We got home with the finisher badge and Chris with his participation medals. Yeah, we did it. Got home with the 7th place, which I'm so incredibly stoked on. And yeah, it was been an incredible experience. Taryn, what are your thoughts from a media side?
No, listen, just in general, it's been a pretty crazy experience to just trying to get there with visa issues the week before and then you being sick on the couch on antibiotics, literally leading up to that first day. It was a pretty crazy experience just trying to get there. But honestly, the best trip that probably would never have happened.
I totally agree. And sorry, Chris, about visa issues also caught you red-handed. But Thailand seemed pretty fun. It seems like you got quite a few participation medals there.
Well, let me tell you about it, actually. Now that you're asking. So, yeah, unfortunately, I didn't make it to Romania. I couldn't let my hair down and have fun. I had business and, all of these hedge funding things and corporate CCLs. And you don't want to hear about it.
No,
But yeah, no, it was tough,
horrible.
Feet up on the beach, sipping a cold one. Boy, you wouldn't have lasted.
With this Red Bull Romaniacs, also to give some context, my friend and I, Kevin, we actually entered this race about a year ago before we even created the World Hard Enduro podcast, the Instagram account, any of this, before it even was
an idea.
And so for us, it's been something that we've been working towards for a very long time. And yeah, it's, as I said, sitting here and being able to speak about it to you guys, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked to be here right now with you guys and to chat some shit.
Yeah. And I think something just to backtrack a bit. Well done, firstly. Thanks, boy. And I'm going to give you one of my medals. So I actually received one of these at every checkpoint that I came across first on my way to the final destination of Bangalore Road in Patong. So you get one of these as well. Well done and a handshake.
Thank you.
Good job. No, but on a serious note though, well done, man. Incredible result, incredible effort. You were sick as a dog the last time I saw you before leaving. I was very worried, skeptical. You were just crawled up in a ball on the sofa. And just well done, man. Exceptional ride and great performance. Well, now that that's done and dusted, I think we should take all of this hardware off, goldware, silverware, and get into the nitty-gritty of Romaniacs.
Let's go.
Let's go, girl.
First thing to really tick off the list for this week of events, because it's a whole week of things going on, is the 64 Nations City Ride.
Yeah, that was an awesome experience. So many people from all over the world coming together, doing this parade through Sibiu City. Also, a little bit naive from my side is, honestly, as a dirt bike rider, I thought that Sibiu was built around Romaniacs and very naively thinking that. We were pleasantly surprised when we got there that, this little city of Sibiu is just so amazing. It's got so much history, so much good food, good music. I think from one day there was a classical band playing inside one of the squares. Doing Mozart, and then the next day the band Korn. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yes.
Like very gothic hard rock. They were set up there playing. Yeah, so it was just this complete contrasty but every night there was something happening, and it was a really cool experience. So the 64 Nations city ride went through these main parts of Sibiu, like the old town, on the cobble roads, and it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was really cool. So the riders started at the paddock, made their way through the city, and then ended at basically the track in the middle of the city where the prologue was going to take place. And then on that same day, the gold class riders did kind of like a opening ceremony show for the fans and spectators who were there, so that everyone could kind of see, you know, what the prologue had in store for them for the coming day.
Did you end up watching the live broadcast of that demo Maniacs?
I didn't watch the live one. I watched the replays of it and followed quite a bit on social media, on Instagram, but I didn't catch it live. I did see it though, and it was a phenomenal scene, man. I had no idea that firstly Sibiu was so beautiful. I was blown away by it, and then the mountain ranges as well. It was, I definitely have FOMO. Yeah, what an awesome event. The opening ceremonies, 64 countries. That's quite a high number.
Yeah, right. And also just quick, maybe a safety advice is that we saw quite a few guys ride with their flags strapped around the neck, so tied like basically like a cape. And a lot of their guys got their flags caught up in the rear chain, and it kind of like pulled them like off the bike, which I think is quite dangerous. So yeah, I saw that coming actually from a mile away. So if you are ever doing the 64 Nations city ride, make sure that flag's well away from getting caught up in that chain, because that's not how you want to start your Romaniacs, is getting first of all getting your national flag caught up inside a dirty greasy chain, and then also you getting ripped off the bike. Not a good situation, but
not a great way to start.
No, not at all. But yeah, the demo Maniacs was pretty impressive. So cool to see what those pro riders can do on such gnarly features that us mere mortals only look at and just get super intimidated about, because it's something that you never have the chance to ride ever, like you don't think about riding things like this ever in your life. So
to kind of explain for those who don't really understand fully what like a prologue is, it is a man-made course that was in the heart of the city of Sibiu, and then around it all of the spectators or the riders who weren't riding or racing or trying to qualify for those top 35 positions in their class were standing around the course and could like cheer on their fellow riders and their like favorite riders. So that's kind of what the prologue was. In the morning of I think it was the Tuesday, the bronze, silver, iron and atom classes, they kind of qualified for their prologue final run. The riders did not get to ride the track before, which I thought was quite crazy. I mean, we spent multiple nights leading up to that day walking that track, and I'm sure that we have like a bit of a slow-mo time lapse that we can put over here, just kind of going over that track, because wow, it was wild, and not to be able to like ride it before, I think was very intimidating for a lot of the riders. Maybe not the gold class so much, because they obviously had their show the day before. Yeah, quite a hectic track to do with only one try, right?
Yeah, and that's the truth, is that you only get to walk the track and you don't get to ride it. So your first run on that track is your qualifying run. So you need to either be a bit ballsy, take a bit of risk, or try and keep it safe and just get through it in one piece. So it's quite intimidating. That's one thing that I wish that was a bit different, but I completely understand that it's not possible because there's so many riders entered. Is that like they put so much money and time and effort into constructing this like pretty awesome feature and like course that it can only get ridden once by some riders, right? So Atom and Iron, they don't have a night show, so it's not compulsory for them, but they get the chance to put a fast lap time down, which will then get them their starting position for off-road day one. For bronze, it's not compulsory either, but they do have a night show. So if you are capable and are up for the challenge to try to get into the top 35 and make the night show, then that's cool. But that time doesn't get added to your overall time for off-road days for bronze class. For silver and gold, however, it's a bit different. So for silver, it's compulsory for them to do the qualifying run. It's compulsory for the top 35 to start, and that time will then get added onto their overall race time for off-road days. And then gold, the only difference there is that they've got points on the line. So the top 3 finishing inside Prologue inside the night race ends up getting points counting towards the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship. So
I think important to make a note here, though, that when we speak about the results, especially from the Prologue, some riders are not entered into the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship. So even though they came maybe first in the Prologue, that doesn't mean that they're getting those points because they're not entered into the championship. We had a lot of questions asking about like, oh, what about Graham Jarvis, or what about Johnny Walker or Michael Walkner? What about them? They are not entered into the championship even though they are racing at these races. So I just think that that's an important point to make.
Yeah, but I think we've got a man.
Who we got down there? Is that Brandon? You with Paul? Okay. Down onto the floor with Brandon. He's got Paul with him.
Paul Bolton. Paul, it's really cool to meet you. We speak about you a lot on the podcast, and it's really cool to finally meet you. I wanted to find out, what do you think your thoughts on this track? So for an average rider like myself, this is things I've never seen, never ridden before in my life. So what are your thoughts on a track like this?
The track this year, it looks pretty intense. I would get to walk it, and most of the riders obviously walk it and know it religiously. So I didn't get to do that, but when I just rode it then, did 3 laps, my feeling was it's a lot of square edges, big hits, and some big features. So, yeah, actually, it's really good. Flows pretty well for how big the features are. But for guys coming here who might not have rode this sort of stuff before, then good luck.
That's definitely me. How important is this race, though? We at Romaniacs, right? It's a 5-day event. Do you think the top riders are taking this really seriously, or are they holding a bit back, making sure that they're reserving themselves for the minute?
No, it's all in for the top guys in the gold class. It's all in to get that number 1 spot. You know, they will be reserved if they make a few too many mistakes. They'll know when to probably just chill it out and calm down, just get where they are. Yeah. But no, the ultimate goal for them is to win, to get the best pick, which would probably be 3rd on the road. Right. You've got a couple of tyre marks on the ground that you can follow, and when you catch up to them guys, the time differences, you're closing them already.
Right. And don't forget also championship points on the line, right?
Absolutely, yeah, for the last few years, so it's really interesting and definitely helps. It might be the difference at the end of the season. Cool. Cheers.
Thanks, Brandon, for reporting to us live down from the start gate of Prologue. And Paul Bolton in the flesh, eh? I've got to ask you a question. Is he like godlike? Is he just a man? Like,
you know what?
Is he like?
He's the nicest person. I ran into him in the 64 city parade, because I'm literally running through that city chasing the riders, and I stumbled all of a sudden he's next to me. What a friendly guy. Honestly, dude, he is worth the hype. Such a cool guy.
And his hair is as glorious as it looks online. It is like that offline. It is just locks of gold. It's good.
So maybe I'll have to ask you this question off of air, and you might know the answer. Do we know what conditioner he's using? Because those locks are phenomenal, Paul.
You're going to have to stay to the end of the podcast to get in that type of insight.
I'll catch you backstage. I'll catch you.
Now that we know kind of what Paul had to say and what the riders were up against for this, prologue, let's talk a little bit about the women's results. I'd like to get into how they performed in this prologue. So in our silver class, we had Sandra Gomez, who actually finished in 31st.
This is for the
prologue, the final of the prologue,
cool.
Yeah. And then you also had Kirsten Landman, who was also in the silver. She finished in 100th. I know that Kirsten, she posted a video on her social media saying that she really just got caught up in those tires. I think there was a kind of a trough of water just before the tires, and so the water splashed a lot onto those tires, and it made it super slippery. And I think a lot of people had a bit of a nightmare with those tires. Yeah, it kind of ruined her prologue run a bit, you could say.
I think also important to note here is that if you are in the top 35, that means that you inside bronze, silver, or gold, that means that you're in the night show. But if you are not in the top 35, then you just basically did your qualifying run, and then you didn't get the chance to actually race in that main event. So Kirsten maybe didn't have the chance to even get to the night event.
Yeah, that's correct.
But Sandra did.
Correct. So she was 31st. Kirsten was 100 in the silver class. Then we moved to the bronze class, where we only have one woman, which was Chassa. She came 144th in, I think, out of more than 300 in her class. So still really, really good. She posted about being quite scared, actually, of this track and of this course, especially initially with those first big logs that you had to get over at the start. But she kind of thought, let's just do it. I'm going to be fine. Like, let's just get through it. But then also got caught up with those tires later on.
And it's very important to note, or something from a racer point of view, I'm in her class and we're racing together, and she did all the big features that I didn't dare to do. So, so she doubled, she got over the big spine wall and then the double after that. So, super impressive. Got nerves of steel, I tell you, because when I looked at those features, I was like, yeah, I could do it, but it's so intimidating. And if you only have one run at it, it's like, do I risk my life to get into this main or not? But for my strategy, I took it super, super slow, and then ended up just trying to get to the features one by one, not making any mistakes, and got me a 4th for qualifying for my class. So, but sorry, I'm taking the show away from the ladies here. They're the stars here.
Yes. And then in the iron class, we had Julia Bittner from, I think she's German. She came 56th, Carolina came 83rd, and Lisa Bowman came 124th. And I saw Julia and Carolina kind of walking the track together just before their qualifying run, looking a little bit nervous. But honestly, I don't think I would have given that prologue track a try. I'm not so convinced. Like, being there, I was like, oh, I'm not so sure about this one. But yeah, that's kind of how our ladies did on our prologue day.
Yeah, cool insights. From my experience of Prologue, I'm speaking as a rider once again because it's just fresh in my mind. But if you are inside the Iron Atom Bronze class inside the Red Bull Romaniacs, I strongly urge you to just give it a try for qualifying. I know it's super intimidating. It's probably one of the scariest things you'll ever do on an off-road bike. But holy cow, that is something that I'll never forget doing. And I'm so glad that I just went for it. Lucky enough to get 4th in my class. I started in the front row for our night show. And that was the most surreal experience I've ever had on an off-road motorcycle. There are hundreds and hundreds of fans. All their phones are on. It's live TV. Family and friends are watching from across the world. And you get to tackle this obstacle course in front of everybody that are just as passionate as you about off-road motorcycles. So yeah, give it a go. Don't get super intimidated. Yes, take it easy, take it safe. Don't hurt yourself, but try give it a go.
Yeah.
Just give her the beans, bro. Just give her the beans. But sorry, just to interrupt quick, that prologue track, those features were something else. It looked like something out of like a X Games BMX vert competition, especially that launch that looks like a wall. And for Chassa, to grip it and rip it all the way up there. Well done, girl. I know my fellow co-host could have done it. I would have done it, actually. I would have sent it. I would have probably landed like over the next feature.
Yeah,
backflip, man. That's a perfect backflip.
Whip flip. Flip or whip. Little flip or whip.
And it's actually, if you listen to the first podcast that we had about, or the pre-Red Bull Romaniacs podcast with Martin, he was saying that Andy is the mastermind behind this track, and they want to build a street prologue that kind of is indicative to what you experience as an off-road rider in the hills or the Carpathian Mountains. So these sections are like, if you didn't make them, like if they weren't man-made, you would I think you would find this inside like what you're racing and riding inside the bush. Like some of these steep chutes, like that's very common to find inside these hills. But obviously it's a hillside and not just like a one-story high wooden feature. Skinny bridge.
That's actually very interesting. I never actually thought about that. Like, yes, in the interview he did say, it kind of will replicate what you'll see out in the mountains. And now thinking back, like it actually 100% was like that. Like some of the things that you saw, it's obviously you're not going to see tires in the mountains, but it's the same kind of challenge and movements that you're going to have. I mean, there was like a rock garden, I think it was on day 1, that we can speak about a little bit more about later, that absolutely caught so many people up, just like those tires did. So I can completely see the relationship between prologue and, just the rest of the race.
Chris, when you were watching the live Maniacs, did you see any tumbles or spills on some of these sections?
Dude, I think it was hard to get a frame of the video where there wasn't someone down. Like it looked like absolute chaos out there. And I was following not only live Maniacs, but also then obviously the Romaniacs website had like the timekeeping, but also World Hard Enduro Instagram page. And I saw your video posted at the Prologue, and I was like, no, there must be something going on here. Maybe it's on like 0.75 speed or something like, you know. But then thinking back at it, like looking at how many people came short in that Prologue from probably trying to push to, I mean, okay, I get like Martin says the top guy, Paul, says the top guys are striving to like win it. Yeah. But if you're in, let's just say like the outside the top 20 of a class, like what's the use really? But yeah, I think that incredible features, the live timing was, Liet's live it's so hard. Liet Live Maniacs.
Yes.
That was awesome to have a hold of. Caught me in the loop, kept me in the loop, and yeah, very, very, very exciting.
So for Prologue, what did we see for the final results there for the different classes? So
Sure, I'm going to go through the bronze, silver, and gold classes because they're the ones that had a final race, and I'm going to give you the final results.
Can we start from 4th place in bronze? Just
No, we cannot.
yes, we can.
No.
let's do it. Let's send it.
No, we cannot. I'm starting from 3rd because I only have
Okay, I'll start from 4th, then you go 3rd.
You-
And 4th place, we have
This is
Bernie, Brandon, Benethy, Anthony.
I qualified for
The-
I finished
This is
the
the
race.
final.
I finished in 6th.
We'll have to cut that out.
Okay.
You missed that one.
Okay, we'll start from 6th.
Okay, starting from 3rd. Okay, final for the bronze for the Prologue day. We had Kevin Gallis in 3rd, Mark Jackson in 2nd, and Fernando Pascal in 1st. Fernando Pascal is a 14-year-old kid from the Sorry Mario Roman team. Awesome kid, super friendly, and really talented. I think he did like the most amount of laps in that whole class.
And Kevin Gallis on a Yamaha T7 as well, an adventure bike. Just let's not forget that.
Yes.
That's quite an achievement.
Quite an important point. Then moving into silver, in 3rd we have Barry Donaghy. In 2nd we have Cornel Ott, who is I think 15, Hungarian rider. And then in 1st we have Oscar Waligora, I think it is. And then moving into the gold class, so this is, the big boys. I have some information just about how their races went just before we give the final results. So from the start, if you watch the Live Maniacs, I think like Johnny Walker was literally, he just shot out there. He was basically in the front from the beginning. And I know that he actually had a little bit of a crash in the tire section during the race, but it ultimately, like, he was doing really well. It didn't really affect his race and his position in the race. Manny also had a bit of a crash in his race in that Prologue, so he also needed to play catch up a little bit. And then also you have Alfredo Gomez, who also once again had a crash. I mean, it seems like everyone had at least one tumble in this race. I think that crash pushed him back to 5th, but managed to work his way up to what is the final result. So in 3rd we have Manny, in 2nd we have Alfredo, and in 1st we had Johnny Walker. Now, to keep in mind that Johnny Walker's not in the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship, so your points will then go to Alfredo Gomez, Manny Lettenbichler, and then in 4th was Mitch Brightmore.
Yeah, that's a solid performance. Johnny was doing things on that Prologue that I don't think anyone else was doing.
It was impressive.
Yeah, he was hopping and finding jumps, like turning it into a bit of a supercross track in some sections. So also to give you some insight, like we all, so bronze, silver and gold, we had 7 minutes plus 1 lap for our racing times for our main race.
Bronze and silver.
Oh, bronze and silver. And then the gold had 10 minutes plus 1.
Correct.
Right, okay, but irrespective, the fastest bronze rider, Fernando Pascal,
Yes.
he got 4 laps done inside the 7 minutes plus 1, where Johnny, I think, got roughly about 8, 9 or 10, something like in the top, like 10 laps done inside those 10 minutes. So just absolutely flying. They're basically doing 2 laps when we're doing 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool to be able to gauge, because I've never seen any of these guys ride in real life, so like you can see it on TV. I don't feel like it does it justice, and when watching, like when I watch you go around a course and you watch someone like Johnny go around that course, I think it really puts it into perspective of like how quick these guys are and how easy they make it look. You know, like it looks like you say, like a supercross track. Like they're clearing things, landing so smoothly, taking off, like floating over tires, and like you think it looks so easy. You know, I think from my perspective, that was cool to be able to gauge it without actually seeing it in real life. But yeah, Johnny absolutely smoking it. I saw the Liat Live Maniacs. There was chaos behind him. I think there was one section where it might have been the tires or the rocks where we must have had like 5 guys out of the top 10 all right there. You know, they were like swapping.
Stuck,
yes. And then they had back markers in front of them and it was absolutely chaotic. But I feel like Prologue gets the show off to like such like an electric vibe.
Yes.
You know, like it gets you so hyped. It's short, it's quick, everyone can see it, it's exciting, exhilarating, and
I think it's the perfect activity, you could say, I guess, to have at a race. I think it's the perfect thing because with hard enduro, fans, I mean, yes, there are spectator points. Fans do get to see the track, but not always, right? And I feel like prologues are always such a perfect way to really get like the excitement going, give the fans a taste of what they came for.
Yeah.
Pure carnage, really.
Yeah, absolute pure carnage.
Before we wrap up the prologue, I just want to say something that I noticed about it is in the top 10 of the gold class, there were 3 juniors.
Yeah.
3 juniors out of the 10. And it was Ashton, Mitch, and as well Saf.
Yes.
Saf Seller.
Yes.
And I thought that was so cool to see. Like, I mean, juniors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if we have to put juniors, say like amateurs against motocross pros, like there's no chance.
Yeah.
There's no chance. Like top 10, you know, like there's no chance that they're probably going to get into there. But yeah, I thought that was awesome. And something else I also saw was Saf looks so fresh. Recently, I've been, I've had like a drawing and liking to shot gear, and he's from head to toe, goggles, helmet, gear on the KTM. I think he has Alpine Star boots, but yeah, that was something I was like, oh, guy looks fresh.
So freshest guy on the track for Prologue from Chris. Chris
Actually,
is
I think
freshest.
Okay,
I think Johnny looked good though. To be fair,
Johnny did look
Johnny
good.
looked good. He looked fresh.
He looked good.
While you think, I actually have a funny story about Saf Seller's mum. So I don't know, like anyone who is a wife or a girlfriend or even a family member of someone who rides hard enduro, you know the absolute stench of those clothes after a long day. Either it's the sweaty clothes or it's the stinky boots, but good gracious, it is horrific. And we need to get that smell gone as soon as possible. I think this is after like off-road day 1 or day 2, day 1. And I ended up finding like a laundromat because you must know all of the laundromats in that city are like full of like people trying to wash their clothes. And I happened to come in contact with Saf Seller's mom, who was also washing his off-road clothes. So we were both kind of just like, yeah, no, this needs to be done today. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck with this for the marathon stage. So, yeah. Okay, back to you, Chris. Freshest kit.
Okay, so for the Fresh Fit Award, handed out by Chris.
You can also think about bronze class.
Okay, well, if we're just doing gold class,
Okay.
something that okay, and I never really was on board with it. I know that like Sherco, they've got a gear deal with Kenny, and they all run the same gear like pretty much every race, right? And I've never really been a fan of it. I kind of like enjoy. I know Motocross, the pro circuit team in America, does the same thing. They all wear similar gears, and I never really vibed with it. Like I like people to stand out, but Tio looked wicked. Tio looked wicked on that bike. I think also his height on the small, is it the 25 or the 24 that he's riding?
I think he's on the 25, yeah.
Yeah, with the, like the Lumo blue, or not Lumo, the
Like fluorescent.
yeah. I think my fresh fit, my effing fresh fit award, handed out by Chris, goes to Theodore.
Wow.
Well done,
Yeah.
Boyki.
Actually, quite interesting, a story when we were practicing, myself and Kevin, before the race, the weekend before, because we had 2 days of practice inside our like hiring. We saw Tio out there at the finish line, like hill climb, because that's where we were busy doing some training. And he was putting on his kit, and it was actually super interesting to see what was going on there, because before he puts his pants on, he has a normal riding shirt, right? But it's got a button. It's got a button in the middle, so you
Kind of like a onesie.
Exactly. So he clips it like underneath his nutsack. Like, he clips like the back and the front, so it's like a
Safe.
swimsuit almost, you know?
Yeah, like a Borat suit.
And I honestly thought this was genius because like it keeps your shirt there, and that's probably why he looks so fresh, is because that it literally looks so tight and so on him the whole time. It never comes out the pants or it's never baggy. So I thought that was like, oh, that's pretty cool actually.
In stores soon.
That's such a good idea. I've never actually seen that. Is that a common thing with that
I don't
line
think
of
so.
gear, or is it custom like for him?
I think it's custom. I've never seen that before ever actually. So yeah, it's really cool to see actually.
Well, yeah, Tio, if you're listening, just let us know in the comments. Is that custom? The
Crotch
crouch holder?
The crotch
or
clip.
Is that
Crotch clip.
Crotch
can you
clip.
send us a link? Where can we get that?
Yeah, that's good. Maybe World Hard Enduro is coming out with the line.
Okay,
Tight
so
fit.
heading into day one.
So day one, I want to mention for day one is that now that we've got our finishers, our top 3 finishers for Prologue, they are then reversed for the starting order of off-road day one. So your guy that finished in 3rd position in Prologue, he now starts first on off-road day one, second in second, and then 3rd in 1st. So 3rd position's not so ideal. I think that you don't want to be, as we mentioned in previous.
But you know who's starting in 3rd? Or who was in 3rd, but he's now starting in 1st.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Manny.
The man himself.
So, I mean, theoretically, 100%. In this case, maybe not.
Do you
He
think
seems
with
like-
him,
Yeah.
right? Like, man, like we've had people that are like, okay, you explain that it's better to start behind. You can see tracks. We heard Paul speak about it. I think Martin also mentioned it, or I'm not too sure. But do you think with like the case of Manny, do you think for him, he prefers to just get out front
Yes,
and go?
I think so.
Like, do you think he's that kind of rider that, like in motocross, you get the guys that like to sit in second or sit in first if there's a battle going on? Some guys like to sit back, watch lines, gauge the rider. The other guy just likes to be in front, no distraction, and pin it. Do you think Manny is like that kind of animal?
You know what? I think so. But it's a great question, and maybe we should put that in our notes to ask him the next time we see him. Because I think it's a great question.
I think we should touch back on the answer of that after looking at how this race played out. I think it would maybe make some sense to go through all 4 days of off-road racing, and then we touch back into that answer,
right.
and then we see maybe he shows us what his tactic was all about. For those of you that are not familiar with how the off-road day works for the Red Bull Romaniacs, so it's a 4-day off-road rally that usually begins, or for this year it begins inside the paddock, which is just outside, quite close to the airport actually, in the morning. So because I finished 6th inside my Prologue, I started 6th on the road for off-road day one. I take an Uber or a taxi. My day starts normally at about 4:30. I have breakfast at about 5, 5:15, maybe 5:30. Latest, I'm in an Uber going to the paddock. At the paddock, I'm picking up my GPS from the organizers. Super kind and helpful, and it's not too much of an issue picking your GPS up. You get your GPS, you go to the paddock, you get your bike, you make sure that all your gear's on and you're ready to go for the first off-road day. You equip your motorcycle with the GPS, and then you begin basically just outside of the paddock. There will be a start area. You'll be given 2 times for the start of off-road day one, or for most off-road days. The first time is when you start from the paddock, and then the second time is when you start your off-road day, so when racing actually begins. So with the paddock start, you have a liaison of usually somewhere between 10 and 20 kilometers, and then they give you about 30 minutes to complete this liaison in. It's not a race, it's not part of your time, you just follow the GPS, follow the rules of the road, and you get to that off-road start safely. Then when you get there, that's when the racing starts and begins, and then you begin. All systems go. For off-road day one, the silver, bronze, iron, and atom started in the same location, while the gold riders, they went off into a sneaky secret location, not so secret, but into a location where they will basically see their fate for the next, I think, 9 hours or 10 hours that they did on that first day.
I think the first day was about an 8-hour day.
8 hours. So, yeah, it was a big day for them.
Yeah, as you said, I think day one was definitely the toughest day. Heading into day one, they had a couple like interviews with the riders, and I know they spoke to Wade, who started in 5th, and he was basically saying, you know, there was a bit of a gap between him and first place, so he's just really trying to like get through that day, keep his heart rate down, race his own race. That was his like goal going into that first day. And they also spoke to Matthew Green, and he said that his tactic on, you know, day one is that normally it is the toughest day, which it was. We all kind of know that, but his vibe or his going into that day, he wanted to really try and push through that day, get through it, and then try and get, as I said, like a good start, a good day, because that normally sets you up for the rest of the race.
Matt actually mentioned something interesting also just to us personally, and he said that wherever you finish inside day one and day two, basically that's where you're going to end up by the end of the race. I mean, all things like going well, right? Usually you battle then within the 5 guys in front of you and the 5 guys behind you. So yeah, very important for that first day to get with with the group that you think that you are part of or should be part of or want to be part of. And from Chris, from your perspective, you were watching on Live Maniacs. So what the Live Maniacs was one section inside of the loop in the day where the riders, the gold riders, had to complete multiple laps of a very technical, steep section. I think day one it was 3 laps. Chris, how was your experience watching that on Live Maniacs?
Yeah, it was awesome. I wasn't listening as usual when Taryn explained how Live Maniacs works. And I didn't realize it was only an hour, but it's action filled.
Yeah.
I loved the coverage from Lee at Live Maniacs. It was super insightful along with the actual Romaniacs website live timing. And I loved that it was on that section. Why I say that is because if I think of Erzberg, right, it's one big loop, but this little section from day one, it's a lap that they keep doing, right? And in Erzberg, a lot of the time you see like the top 5 guys, or maybe to 10th about, you know, and then some random shots. But this one, they had cameras set up all over the track, and they were showing the entire field, which I really appreciated, because there was like, I got to see every single rider. I'm still not completely familiar with them, so to actually visually see like a picture to the name and see how they're doing, see how they're riding, that was so cool. I loved the Lee at Live Maniacs coverage. I wish it was longer, but yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was phenomenal.
I think it's such a good way to separate the amateurs from the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship class. Because to be clear as well, the gold riders were the only riders to enter the Lee at Live Maniac. So for the silver, bronze, iron and atom classes, we did our own thing, basically very traditional rally style off-road racing, not meant much coverage going on there, except if you're following on the Red Bull live timing, which is again also super, super helpful. Taryn, from a spectator and a wife of a rider, what are your thoughts about that online timing system?
It helped a lot. It helped a lot, especially because like using that timing system along with the notice that was basically sent out every day with the spectator points. The spectator points, you could kind of see a map of all of the points that you can go to, as well as information about each point. So what you expect to see the riders have to, what the challenge is that they're going to now be facing at their spectator point, as well as, okay, let's just say, for example, Brandon, you have come through checkpoint 3. And if I look on the spectator sheet, it says, oh, you should get to spectator point 4 20 minutes after you've gone through checkpoint 3. So I'm like, okay, cool. Brandon has just gone through checkpoint 3. I have about 20 minutes to get to that point, or it's about 20 minutes until he will get to that point. So you can kind of gauge your time as a spectator, as media. It kind of helped you kind of figure out where you needed to be and when you needed to be there. So I thought that was super helpful. And also just to see as the day goes, how you are doing as a competitor. Like you can see, okay, Brandon is now in 8th position. Oh, he had like a really good checkpoint between, at this section. He obviously did a really good job. So now he's moved up to 7th overall. So it was really cool to be able to gauge how you are doing live throughout the day.
I completely agree. I think that's also what you're paying for when you enter this race is that quality service of timing and scoring. Even as a rider, I was coming into spectator and service points, looking at my time, seeing how I'm doing, seeing if I should increase my pace or decrease. Or
I have a question actually about the checkpoints. I know that in this race, they are not, so like for example, in Erzberg Rodeo, their checkpoints were all digital. There were no people there. But in this one, there were people scanning the front of your bike to get into different checkpoints, right? Do you think that worked well? Having people scan you, like, did it work the way that you hoped that it would? Because I know we spoke about this when we spoke about Erzberg Rodeo, about how digital is so much better. You can kind of just go through, no one's holding you up. But from what I saw, it seemed like they were pretty on it with this.
Yeah, there was no bottlenecks. I didn't find myself having to wait more than 5 seconds to get through a checkpoint. What they are actually scanning is a card that they put behind your front number board sticker that they give you, that they issue you. So basically they take the phone, they scan your front number board and makes a sound like did it, and then they tell you can go. So for me it was no problem. For sure a lot of overhead, a lot of people had to be present all over the place, but yeah, I felt like it was no problem. It was good going.
I think that's a good, a feather out of the cap of the Red Bull Romaniacs, organizers and race committee for the FAM Hard Enduro World Championship. This kind of timing to be able to see exactly where the riders are in real time, because it also took into account corrected time.
Right.
So I think that having this kind of system in the FAM Hard Enduro Championship races would actually be really cool, because one, we get to see, because I know that they normally have their live where you can see them on the map, but then it's kind of difficult to know exactly, this rider was faster in this checkpoint, but now they're in this position. I think integrating the system that they already have with this system would really change the game in tracking riders in a hard enduro event.
Yeah, I agree as well with the live timing. I thought it was so cool to have that there. And I think back to Erzberg Rodeo, when we were sitting watching it live and it only shows the top 10 guys. If only we had this system then,
we could
to find out where Maddie was.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This caused a lot of tension debating where Matthew was, and if we had the system it would have been so much better, right? And
Absolutely.
I think not only from from your perspective it makes so much sense, it helped so much for you as well when you're getting into your time where you can have a look at it and see how you're doing. And then also for me as well, because obviously Liat Live Maniacs is only the gold class, right? So how else do I follow you? There is no other way. I can't watch you, unless I watch World Hard Enduro. But this system is to the millisecond.
Yeah, it's really
I get a live update on where you are, what you're doing, and I think not only for me because you were riding, but for everyone else who's curious where their friends are.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're not one of the top 20 in the world, so you don't see their names on the list. It's so cool to be able to keep track of what how many entries were there?
Over 500.
Yeah. I mean. Brilliant system.
It's the website is a little bit confusing though, if you're not familiar with it. So for next year, if you have a loved one, a friend, or someone that's entered and you are interested in following it the way that we did it online with the timing, I suggest downloading the app or going on the website and getting familiar with what is going on there. To be honest, it's a bit of a box of Skittles. It's super colorful and there's a lot of things going on there, but you need to know the difference between overall finish, maybe your corrected time finish or checkpoint finish, or day finish and then overall finish, because if you don't know these differences you can get confused quite quickly, which I think we did quite often.
And I hopefully I'm speaking out of hope for the future, but hopefully World Hard Enduro can be at more races next year, and that we will be able to give, better explanation of how to use the website and how to actually track riders closer to an event like this. We can help, explain a little bit so that you're not overwhelmed by websites. You kind of just have it in like one simple place.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. Like, it is our first rodeo, right?
Yeah.
Like, we haven't been to any of these. Well, I actually still haven't. This was your first event.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for the viewers, it's these kind of things that's going to, like, bring value maybe in the next year or two, once we've ironed out all the kinks and understand things. Because, like you say, it's like a box of Skittles, right? You go in there and I'm like, bro, like, what color do I like? And I think, like, also, like you say, there's so many different, like, for me, an epiphany I had was like, there's not just one first place guy.
Yeah.
Like, or there's not just one first place. There's like your first guy across the finish. There's the overall leader. There's the day winner. There's the class leader. Like, there's so much going on. I didn't really know what to look at. But yeah, very, very complicated. But yeah, everything you need if you know how to do it, it's there.
Good point.
So off-road day one, tough day in the mountains for the goals, eh?
Tough
for the gold
day.
boys.
Tough day for the gold class. I know Matthew Green had clutch issues. That's what I heard from the side of. Well, on the side of the track, but it wasn't really. It was back at the paddock, basically.
Yeah, and in his social media, I saw him. He had some time to not only put water in his clutch, but film himself put water in his clutch. So, yeah, that's not an ideal place to be, especially on off-road day one. And no clutch inside Romaniacs. That's a tough
on
one.
the toughest day.
Yeah, on the toughest day,
Dude.
that's not easy.
And we had DJ Goyrand. He ended up cutting his finger on that day, so he lost a lot of time going to like the medical team trying to stop the bleeding. I know by the end of that day, Johnny Walker was on a drip because he was just so, I guess, exhausted with what had happened. But some other things that happened in that day, for the gold class. Did you see the content about the zip line?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
That was crazy.
How cool is that? Like, what an experience. I mean, I don't know the exact way that it worked, and obviously I couldn't get there. It was quite impossible to be everywhere, but I did see on social media the whole like zip line, like strapping up the bikes, putting the bike down, and Manny just wanting to sit on his bike.
Yeah, the man's like, oh, can I get on? Can I get on? And those Romanians were not too keen. Like,
please don't.
"No, pal." Take the stairs.
Yeah, super eventful day.
Yeah, and the last thing that I saw, which I was there for, was the rock garden. So at the very end of the day, most of the class, I think all of the classes actually went through this rock garden. Maybe when you went through, it was pretty, you didn't face the bottleneck.
Yeah, there was no
But
one.
when I was there, I think the back markers, you could say, of the bronze class as well as the iron and atom classes, they started coming through, and then it started to rain, and it just, oh my goodness, it was terrible. I felt so bad for the riders. I know I saw a couple of the girls coming through. Chassa came through, Carolina came through, Julia came through, and I remember just telling them, just keep going, girls, because it was tough. Like, a lot of riders got caught up in that rock garden. I saw a lot of bikes just being thrown, a lot of shouting. I'm sure it was a very fun experience for them. But as far as I know, that's actually where the gold class finished on that day.
Right.
Their track was cut short because I don't know weather. There was a weather warning. There was a weather warning. Yeah. We were in the car, and all of our phones started going off saying that weather warning. So we're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the gold class finished their day early at that spot too.
Yeah, they finished one checkpoint early, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
17, I think.
That first day, like, when we were reviewing it now, it just made me think of a couple of things from the Liat Live Maniacs that I enjoyed, and that was also the hosting. We had Billy in the studio with, I believe it's Craig Stone, if I'm not mistaken, a South African guy, and then we had Paul and I believe it's Diana down on the track, right in the boys' faces, and you could see they were not like. Obviously, they're complying, they're doing the interview, but I can only imagine the toughest day of riding, and she's asking you
questions.
Yeah, like I get it, it's cool, but you could see like a couple of the riders were not too stoked on it, and I thought it was pretty funny with Maddie's interview, because it was last year when he dropped the P. Lecker video, and that was at Romaniacs, right?
Yes.
So she tried to run it back and ask him like what he thought about it, and he reckons he's not stoked, So he's not going to be doing that again. If you do see our boy Maddie, please don't tell him it's puss slacker. The boy's pretty over it.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and then if you have an 8 socket, I think he was looking for that as well. So.
And some clutch fluid.
Yeah, clutch fluid.
So let's look at the results from our off-road day one. So I'm going to start with the ladies. Sandra Gomez came in 36th in the silver class, and Kirsten Landman came in 103rd. Then in the bronze class, you had Chassa, which was in 16th position.
Sure, it's phenomenal.
Wow. Honestly, like, top performance. And then in the iron class, you had Carolina in 39th and Julia in 47th. So that's kind of where our goals are standing at the end of off-road day one. Then I think we can head into just the overall for off-road day one,
Yes.
right?
See, this is where things get complicated.
Things get complicated on this website, okay?
Is it a day finish
No,
or
okay,
is it
I got it.
overall
No,
finish?
I got it. So we're going to start with bronze, and we're going to do the day finish, and then we're going to do... I'm not going to do the overall, because technically the day is very similar to the overall.
Correct.
So for bronze, you had the day finish was in third Ethan, in second Josh, and in first Kevin Gallus. And then overall the results are the same for the bronze class. For the silver day one, for that day, third you had Cornell Ott, second Chris Birch, and first Patrick Riegler.
Chrissy.
Overall, the only difference is that Chris Birch and Patrick Riegler switched. So Chris was in first and Patrick was in second, Cornell in third. And then going into the gold class for the day and for the overall, it was actually the same. So in third you have Wade Young, in second you have Mario Roman, and in first you have Manny Littenbechner.
And I think Manny pulled about 30 minutes on the boys on this off-road day one. So he asserted all the dominance inside this off-road day one. So to answer your question, I think even now we could start assuming that, yeah, he was ready just to get out there. And pretty sure he didn't even see anybody.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he actually was the only one to make it through that Liet Live by himself. He finished all 3 laps on that first day, and no one had made it into the Liet Live section.
That's
How insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I also saw, I believe it was Martin, I think, or maybe one of the commentators. They were predicting about the top guys doing this loop in about 5 minutes. And Manny was smashing this thing in 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Just floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, and he's out, boy.
It's incredible to see. Just such flow, such precision.
Yeah, and someone else that also caught my eye in that section was Michael Walkner. He's actually really good, man. Like he hasn't got the the physical build of the big boys on top, but he's a little grasshopper. Eh? He sends that KTM. He just pops it, hops it, drops it, and
gas,
locks it and
gas, right?
Dabs it in the gas. Yeah,
on the gas.
What did I say?
Yeah,
KTM.
Oh, well, same thing, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that he has mentioned many times that he feels at home in the forest. So that's definitely where he likes his riding done. Maybe he does a lot of training there. But yeah, for him, when it's steep, rooty, rocky, that's kind of where he's thriving.
Yeah, I also thought from that day 2 loop, day 1 loop that I thought was so cool is you see action. Like guys are not they're not fart-assing around waiting for someone else to hit this heel first. If they see even a gap like this, they're launching and cutting you off, buddy.
Yeah, how fun was watching that actually?
It was so cool, man. It was so cool.
To see the blockbusters basically going into sections, trying to get into the corner first, and that's awesome, and that's what we need. I think we need more of that.
And something that's also cool is because you're seeing not only just the leader, you're seeing all of these other riders and techniques and them do little things that you wouldn't see, right? Like these kind of things in a normal race that's not covered, you would never know they're able to do these things. But because they've got the whole class rotating and they've got cameras on everyone, Ashton was also flying through there, Mitch was flying through there, guys were sending it, and it's so tight, everybody's jostling and trying to get a wheel in front of the next guy. And if you're doing a switchback like this, if the guy gets you, best believe the guy in second's going to try and get him up the next one. And it's just constant.
Yeah. I think let's move on to then off-road day 2, right?
The first day of the marathon.
Correct. So the first day of the marathon stage, off-road day 2, what the marathon is basically you are racing from Sibiu to another city on the other side of the mountain range and staying in that city for one night and then traveling back on off-road day 3. The difference with the marathon stage is that the service crews aren't allowed to support you in the final city that you are sleeping in on that night. So the last time that you will see your service crew would be at the service point, which you have a 30-minute decontrol where you are allowed to change tires and mousses and do any bike maintenance that you need to get done within that 30-minute period. And that will be the last time that you see them until the next day, off-road day, service point
service
decontrol.
point. Yeah.
With the marathon stage, we started again quite early in the morning at the paddock where we collected our GPS, and then we did a liaison to the start of off-road day 2. All classes started at the same location. During the racetrack from Sibiu to the other city, there was a 57-kilometer liaison, which we had about 80 minutes to complete. So, and then the speed limit was 50 kilometers an hour, which then the organizers can read off your GPS live if you are speeding. You get obviously penalized time if you get caught speeding. A lot of the guys got caught out actually because on off-road day 2, the organizers gave everyone an extra 10 minutes because they realized that people were coming in a bit late, and obviously they don't want to condone speeding on the public roads because that's where this liaison is taking place. It's mostly on public roads. And on off-road day 3, some people got caught out by this. But yeah, this day was pretty cool. This is my first Red Bull Romaniacs, and I haven't experienced riding in Sibiu or the Carpathian Mountains yet, but these trails, they seemed really fresh, really new in areas that I guess not a lot of the riders have ridden before. So I think that was a pretty cool addition to it.
And for those of you that don't know, a liaison is the point between where you start and where you actually start. So point A and point A plus. So let me give you an example, correct? Now, right. So, example. It's a Friday night.
Yes.
Chris gets home, he wants to let his hair down. He needs to go down to the local watering hole. The liaison would be from my front door to that first keg.
And then that's when it starts.
When it starts.
Got it.
That's when it starts.
That's a really
so it's
good.
a pre-game. You're pre-gaming before the game.
But it doesn't count towards your overall.
No, we're talking about practice.
and then please explain it in the context of having a liaison the midway during your race. So now you've raced up until 12 o'clock. You take a bit of a break from 12 till 1 to get from pub A to pub B.
Correct.
So A plus to B plus, you've got a B liaison.
All right. So what's the question?
Explain it yourself.
I just explained it. But it's a really good analogy. I think it makes so much sense. Question. Is there a speed limit in your liaison on a Friday night?
We go from 0 to 100 real quick.
So 100 your speed limit then.
Yeah, but I didn't say Ks, miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so off-road day 2, as you said, marathon stage, you kind of gave us a bit of an explanation of that. Speaking to some of the gold class riders, I spoke to Manny's girlfriend just to kind of check and see, how is he doing. She said that the knee was doing well, that off-road day 1 was super challenging, but that off-road day 2 was a lot faster, a lot flowier, a better day for the gold riders. I spoke to Wade, and he kind of said the same thing, more flowy, faster, but that their bodies were quite sore still after off-road day 1. And this was a really interesting day because a lot of the riders had the risk or did get time barred on this day, mainly because I think if you were in the first or in that top of your class, you kind of got through the checkpoint or the service point cleanly, but a lot of the other riders got caught up with some heavy rains that came through. That whole service point was flooded within like a couple minutes with how much rain came through there, so that really affected the race of a lot of riders. And so then delayed them getting into that service point, and then obviously a lot of riders were fighting really against the time, and unfortunately a lot of them really didn't make it in time on that second day. But I think because of the unique situation, the race committee kind of reconsidered their rules and regulations a bit, and allowed a lot of riders who made it to that service point on that day to continue racing the next day, which I think is the right decision. You know, people are out there, when things change, you need to adapt to, you know, the situation.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I missed this rain completely because we started quite early and we were hooking it. It wasn't super technical for the bronze class. So the contrast between when I was there and when I saw you, and after I finished and went onto social media to see how things were going on the World Hard Enduro Instagram account, I was like, oh my goodness, this is not even, doesn't even look like the same place. It was just pouring down. We can also insert the clip here so for the viewers to see. It was
Some
pretty
rain,
crazy.
Yeah, the puddles that came through that
It was
service
a river.
point.
It was literally a river.
A full-blown river.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
Full-blown.
And we have some interesting things that happened on that day too. At the end of that day, just before the riders, you know, were really getting cut off, an old local came through to that service point just before where they were getting like basically like scanned in, like the checkpoint scanning section. She was so upset because obviously the rain had come down and it was now muddy and sloppy and so many bikes coming through there. It was really ripping up the ground, and she was so upset. She's like throwing rocks and sticks and hitting riders because she's so upset about this being private property. You can't be here, you're running the land, which I get, but shame, I felt more bad for the riders because they didn't know why this old lady's coming at them. And they're just like, I just want to get to a service point, I don't want to be time barred. And this little old lady was not having it. She's not having it. No.
Not your partner.
No.
Also for the listeners, to paint a picture, Romania, when it rains, becomes so slippery. I can't emphasize this enough. I know that a lot of the guys say there's still a lot of traction, which there definitely is. But in some sections, they are just like, it's almost impossible to even stand up because it gets so slippery. So where the roots are, where the clay is, a little bit of water, because it was so dry, also leading up to this time, the top layer just became like this really hard packed clay, and it was just so slippery. So I completely understand why people were struggling to get their time bars.
Yeah. So let's go a little bit into the results from day 2. So looking at the women in our silver class, we have Sandra Gomez, who is in our 23rd position on this day. And Kirsten Landman was 101. She unfortunately did get time barred on that second day. In the bronze class, we have Tassa, who is sitting in 13th for the day. In the iron class, we have Carolina, who's sitting in 28th, and Julia, who is sitting in 62nd, but she was also unfortunately time barred on that day. So as you can see, the time bars are starting to creep in there a little bit, but the women really did like solid racing on that day. Then heading into basically the podiums for our off-road day 2. So in the bronze class, the day and the overall is the same. In third, you have Mark Jackson, second, Josh Kirby, and first, Kevin Gallus. So Kevin is definitely showing the boys how it's done in that bronze class. Brandon?
Yeah.
In silver class, for the day, we have in third, Patrick, in second, Ryan, and in first, Cornell. But overall, Chris Birch in third, Patrick in second, and Cornell in first.
I got to speak with Chris after that day, and he was telling me how he had a shocker of a day. He was having to like sit himself down and just be like, what are you doing? Like you know how to ride the bike. Why are you riding it the way that you are? So I think that even the pro riders are having conversations with themselves, trying to get themselves in and out of, let's say,
enthusiasm.
Yeah, and just like mental situation, right? It's a whirlwind of emotion inside these days.
Yeah. That makes me think of like when we go riding here in the mountains, right? Like I've got to do that to myself. So these guys over 5 days, and I imagine you probably had the same thing, right?
Massively.
There must have been a couple of times you have to sit yourself down and like pull yourself towards yourself. But yeah, I mean, we go riding for like 3 hours and I'm done. I'm like, that's it, that's it. I pack my bags, I'm going home. That's it. Get the coolie out, wait for Brandon.
Yeah.
But yeah, even for Chris, I mean, I consider him a gold rider. He's a legend of the sport, and good to know that he's also just a man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just the man.
Just trying to get through it.
And then the gold finishes.
And then the gold finishes. So for day 2, the day result, Mario Roman in 3rd, Manny in 2nd, and Theodore in 1st. But overall, different story. 3rd is Mario, 2nd is Theodore, and 1st is Manny, which shows you that whatever Manny did on that first day was more than enough to keep him in that first position for overall after day 2.
Awesome.
Yeah, and day 2, the Sherco boys were hooking it as well. You know, they weren't on
Yeah.
a Sunday stroll.
I don't think they're ever on a Sunday
No,
stroll.
that's a
The
good point.
boys are always hooking. Yeah.
It's a good way. I have a question for you, Brandon, considering, talking about the marathon stage. I spoke to a lot of the media, the spectator support crew about the marathon stage. And to be honest, it kind of seemed like the marathon stage was a bit of a pain in the ass for everyone who wasn't a rider. Difficult because there's a roadblock from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you leave early enough, the trip is an hour and a half, but if you leave in that roadblock time, it's a 4.5 hour journey back to Sibiu. A lot of them had to stay on the other side of the roadblock for that night, which meant most of them staying in their vans or in their cars, just sleeping the night somewhere on the side of the road. So not an ideal situation for most of the service crew. But from a rider's perspective, is it worth having that marathon stage in the race?
Yeah, so this is quite a good question, and I think it's from a newcomer to the Red Bull Romaniacs. I think it does add a interesting twist to it when listening and like reading the rules and regulations. It's like, oh, like this seems pretty exciting. And after experiencing it, I think there can still be there's still a lot to be done in order to make it like that ultimate marathon stage or that ultimate experience. If you were one of the riders lucky enough to stay in the Ramada Hotel, which was only 100 meters away from Parc Ferme, then you had a great time. You had a fantastic time. I was not lucky enough to get into that situation. My hotel was about 4.5 kilometers away from Parc Ferme. So to try to picture this, right? So you finish your off-road day. You've got 15 minutes to get to the petrol station to fill your motorcycle up, put oil in it, and then get your bike to Parc Ferme. In Parc Ferme, there is a little separate section before you give your bike to the organizers to park the bike for the evening. There's a Milwaukee tool set with a whole bunch of random tools that don't make sense for off-road bikes. I must be honest. So you either get the chainsaw out and do something to your bike, or it was a bit weird. In this Milwaukee section, I proceeded to kind of look at my bike and then go onto live timing and actually just have a look to see where I was standing, how my day went. Contemplate life, for sure.
Sitting next to the chainsaw, rubbing it, listening to it purr.
To be honest, I don't know if there was a chainsaw or not, but it felt like that. It felt like that type of area. It felt like it was, not so much
heavy machinery.
Heavy machinery. Anyways, kicked my tire a couple of times. Thought, she's good to go. She's good to go. Give your bike to the organizer. They park your motorcycle in Parc Ferme. I am in full kit, muddy, dusty. I've had 5 hours on the motorcycle, woke up at 4:30. So then you go through Parc Ferme and then you go collect your see-through bag, which is all the stuff that you packed and gave to the organizers the night before that they've then shipped out to this location. So it's got your race number on it. You get your bag. You've kind of got it over your back. You get your free pasta, eat your pasta, great meal, fantastic, chit-chatting with the boys, figuring out how everything went for the day, cool vibes. So now you're walking with this backpack slinged over your shoulder, the see-through bag, looking like a homeless person, walking through a city that you have no idea where you are actually. You're just walking through this place thinking, okay, asking every guy with a high-vis jacket on, saying, hotel this way? End up going to the Ramada, giving them my paperwork saying like, okay, where is my hotel? Where am I staying? Hoping that I'm in the Ramada. They're like, no, you're actually just down the road. You can walk there. Shame. She was a really kind receptionist that printed out a map for me to show me where my hotel was. And the distance was displayed on there and it was 4.5 Ks. And I looked at it, I'm like, this is 4.5 Ks away. And then she's like, yeah, you can just walk just down this road. I'm like, no, I'm not going to walk 4.5 Ks now, like looking like a homeless guy with my bag like draped over my shoulder, walking down the road in the random city inside Romania. And end up man, I was maybe a little bit grumpy at that point as well. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I order an Uber to get to this location. The Uber driver pulls up, looks at me, and he's like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? And he's like, no, look at you. And I was like, oh, fair enough, right? So I was like, whatever, take my jersey off, literally get down into my underpants, get into this Uber like basically naked with all my dirty clothes inside my bag with all my clean clothes now, just to get to the hotel. And then get to the hotel, get checked in. And this hotel was a boutique hotel, and it was the theme of it, I swear, was white. The theme of it was white, and I've got a pair of boots, I've got like this bag, a see-through bag draped over my shoulder, and I'm walking there and I'm just looking at the lady, I'm like, I'm so sorry, like there's nothing I can do here, this is everything I have, this is all my possessions I have with me. And she's like, I understand, it's fine. And then we got into the hotel room, and I'm trying my best not to touch anything because everything's just white, like the bedding's white, the curtains are white, so for me, to try to come back to your question, it definitely added an element of excitement and something a bit different, but I was missing sleeping in Sibiu that night.
Yeah,
I must be honest, I was quite ready to get out of there. If I was inside the Ramada. Also, the Ramada hotel is where you get your dinner every night. So now you get to your hotel, you have to then do this 5-kilometer trek back and forth just to go get your dinner. It was... Long stories.
It doesn't sound that thrilling.
No, great time.
Great time. So if you could go back, all right. So we have a mate, right? A mutual mate. We'll call him that. Great guy. We'll call him Mr. K for short. His full name's Kevin. So if you could go back in time, right? Let's just imagine you could get in a machine, takes you back. We'll call it a time machine.
Okay.
And if you could get into this time machine, go back to the Ramada, would you have chosen Kevin as a roommate again? Did he bring any value?
Kevin wasn't his roommate.
Kevin wasn't. I had a guy.
Kevin had his own double bed in his own room by himself.
But in a hotel 2-point-something Ks that way, in a different direction. I wasn't with Kevin. I was with another French guy that didn't have to speak a word of English. So we're busy getting to bed. I'm in a double room with this guy that I don't know, that I never met, but he's in gold class, so he's hurting. Like I can see he's like, his body's like shriveling because he's just like been through hell. And I'm like, what time are we waking up for breakfast? And he's like, no English. And I was just like, all right, I'll just set my alarm and do my thing. Like, no, I didn't see Kevin. I met him for dinner at the Ramada because we had to travel like all the way back to the home base to get some food.
So you ride for 7 hours, and then afterwards you've still got to do a 15-kilometer walk.
Yeah,
a bit excessive, but yes. Just about.
If Uber wasn't a thing, yes, but luckily.
I just had a brainwave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So listen to this. When I see opportunity, I know when it comes through the door, I'm on the other side of the door. So listen to this. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So next year, right, when we go to Romania and we go to the Sibiu,
yes,
I am going to create a shuttle service. It's going to be called Smiler's Shuttle Service. And it's going to take you from the finish of day 2 to the hotels.
Yeah.
Filthy gear, all right. Catch. 500 euro per trip.
No one will do that.
No, 500 a lot.
Yes.
Okay, we'll shave it down. We'll work on it.
To be fair, that's not a bad idea. Like just a couple of Milwaukee pickup trucks.
Ooh.
So instead of
Just
supplying
topping
us with chainsaws, give us a truck and a bed to get in the back, and then take us to our hotel. That would be a lot more helpful.
Yeah.
Transport.
Yeah, just transport. I think
Good
that.
point.
Yeah, because it was so funny because like everywhere you went, you just see like everyone that looks like hobos, like basically in their underwear, like trying to
all the riders.
Yeah, like just trying to get into an Uber. But yeah, so then
that ends off the first day of our marathon stage. Now let's look at day 3. How do you feel waking up in a different city, Brandon?
It was quite interesting. I was up quite early next to my French counterpart. I tried my best not to wake him up. So I did all my business in the bathroom trying to pack my big see-through bag.
plastic bag.
Which just made such a noise. He's like, it was interesting. Off-road day 3 was pretty exciting because we knew we were going back home to Sibiu, for me at least. So I had a phenomenal day 3. I was just in a zone, had so much fun. For off-road day 3, you make your way to the paddock in the morning. You collect your motorcycle from the paddock, and then once again, you get handed your GPS close to the paddock. You equip your motorcycle with your GPS. You kick your tires a couple of times, make sure that the mousse is fresh, and then you set off on your liaison. So from A to A+.
From home to Joel.
To the bar, yeah. And then we followed the GPS for the liaison to the start of off-road day 3. Then we started racing, and the only commonality between off-road day 2 and day 3 was that 57-kilometer liaison. So we did the exact same liaison but backwards. However, as I mentioned in off-road day 2, some guys really got caught out by this because they just went a little bit too slow inside the liaison and actually made it to the check out of the liaison too late, and that time then gets added onto your overall time. So let's say you've got 80 minutes to do this 57-kilometer liaison. If you get to the check out at 85 minutes, that means 5 minutes extra gets added onto your race time.
That's horrible, especially after like you're not even racing. It's just getting from point A to point A+.
Yeah, exactly. So I was lucky enough. I kept quite a constant speed and got there about 4 minutes early, but not many people were as lucky as I was. I actually spent quite a long time on that liaison with good old Graham G-Force Jarvis. Interesting guy. I think I was quite intimidated actually because he just like hooked in behind me on the dirt roads, and I felt like I had to like perform. I had to like good technique and
keeping an eye on you.
Yeah, I feel like he was just he was like monitoring me. I had to like he was on my ass. Like we had the whole of the 57 kilometers to be inside like our area, and he was just on my ass. I kept on saying go past. He's like no. So I'm just like radio, like
alrighty, well so I didn't warn you.
Yeah. Had my protein bars the night before, but so that was off-road day 3.
So I know that riders are tired by the time you get to off-road day 3, but what seemed like the only rider to say that he was having fun the whole week was Mario Roman.
Yeah.
He has an interview saying, I'm having fun the whole week. And didn't he thank Martin for making it so tough?
Yeah, I think it's an ego thing, and as you were saying as well with the interviews on off-road day 1 as well, a lot of the guys, you hear the sarcasm in them, right? Like they interview Johnny and they're like, Johnny, so how's it going? They're like, oh no, great first day. I'm having a time of my life when clearly everyone is dying. So, and you had to go on a trip by the end of the day. So like, clearly it's not the case. And I think with Mario, he's well known for always asking it for it to be more technical, more tougher. He likes it in your face, and yeah, I
don't know if that was sarcasm though, because it kind of seems like he was loving life. He was doing well. He was. Like, I don't know.
True.
Definitely seemed like he was like the only one who was like, this is fantastic. But on that day 3, I don't know if it was maybe the beginning of day 3 or middle of day 3. I'm not sure when it was, but I was watching the social media of the Red Hard Enduro social media, and they did some really cool videos with like some of the riders. I know Paul Torres was there. There are some, maybe Wade as well, Mario, some fun questions about like 2-stroke or 4-stroke, on-road or off-road, like a cool fun questionnaire. And I thought that was like a really cool way to show some like riding personality, to like get something different, some different kind of content from the riders. And I thought that was really fun. But I'm curious to know if like our listeners or anyone who happened to see those videos, if they actually enjoyed that too, because I love the idea of like seeing personality and a different side of the riders, instead of just like the morning of where they're like, I'm gonna try my best today, and then afterwards at the end they're like, wow, that was a shit day. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to have like something else, different personality, just to bring a different vibe to to who they are.
Yeah, I agree 100% because, like, for me as well, when you just spoke about day one now with the interviews, right? Like, you get the jokes, the sarcasm or whatever, but then you get also like the pointless questions, so one of the questions I remember is like, oh, okay, so you ready for another loop? You want to go out there and do it again? And it's like, okay, lady, like, come on. but because I also saw that and I thought it was so good. Like, the question is, right? Like things like that in the middle of the race, the riders aren't expecting it. Like, they're probably expecting, like you say, how was your day?
Yes.
So I thought that was really cool as well. I was also following it and watching. So
very fun.
What about for you? 2-stroke or 4-stroke?
I don't know. That's a good question. What do I have?
Nothing now. It's just getting sold after this.
It's getting sold. You have a 4-stroke.
I have a 4-stroke. Yeah, I thought it's just a small pipe.
Yeah.
Small pipe 4-stroke.
No.
Small
expansion. The front or the back? Oh, yeah, front. Yes, sorry. So what was your answer?
It's 4-stroke.
4. Bernie? 4, 2.
I'm a 2Z for the hard enduro stuff. 2Z is pretty cool to ring that thing's neck.
We do like to hear a scream. For me personally, usually 2 strokes, then I'm done. 2 strokes and I'm done.
One and done. So, off-road day 3 was actually not the best day for a lot of the riders. I know that a lot of them kind of officially were time barred on this day, and a lot of the pro riders, like the gold class riders, pulled out of this race on that day.
Sorry to interrupt. Actually, Bernie, I don't know if you saw this. I saw Ashton was having troubles at the beginning of day 3 before even taking off. Ashton
really?
Brightmore, or I saw it on a clip somewhere. Is he one of the riders that pulled out?
No.
Or did he end up going?
He did end up going.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw a little clip of him, like having him and Mitch walking together and then getting on the bikes, getting ready to go out. But then Ashton had some trouble, so I wasn't sure if he ended up getting it sorted.
He probably couldn't get that chainsaw to work properly to fix his bike the night before. So he needed to figure out a way to get that bike going.
You could pull the clutch twice, give
clutch
it 2 blips.
2 blips, kick the tire.
Should have worked.
To go. Yeah.
Good point. But no, he did get going. But I think riders pulled out on that day just due to safety concerns. Really, I mean. If I'm not mistaken, David Cyprian's bike fell off of a cliff. Johnny Walker broke his toe. Dieter Rudolph just said, "I'm done. This is too dangerous. It's not worth risking my life over." And so that was really interesting. An interesting side to the race that I didn't expect to see. Although I know it's hard enduro. I know that it's tough. I know that it's dangerous. It's a dangerous sport, and accidents happen, things happen. But for riders to not feel safe to complete a race or to complete a day, I think that is a bit of a red flag.
I think, like, out of all of those, except for DTR, like, it was all by choice, right? Like, if you lose your your bike down a mountain, I don't think you really have a choice.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Unless you want to do the, Jesus wheels way. Wouldn't recommend it. But also for day 3, am I correct in saying was that the day that Graham pulled out?
Yes. Yeah.
Sure,
I think also but I think his was less for the safety concern and more because of the previous rib injury that he got in Indonesia. I think, just a long couple days on the bony, maybe was a bit rough on the body.
To give also some context here, that if you are time barred inside of the race and you have to basically take the liaison or the easy track back to the finish line, you are technically counted as an abandoned. You can get 2 abandons with inside the Red Bull Romaniacs, and then after 2 abandons you are disqualified.
Yes.
So usually if you abandon day 1, abandon day 2, except for the checkpoint, the service point.
The day 2 liaison.
Exactly, with the service points, if like that the organizers said, okay, if you make it there, then you start.
Correct.
So then a lot of the guys then still had day 3. So if you abandon a checkpoint on day 3, then that's your Red Bull Romaniacs over, you're disqualified.
Yes.
So it basically gets to that point inside the race where disqualification starts creeping into a lot of the riders.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of the riders were disqualified on that last day just because of previous days being time barred, but then also a large ratio of riders pulling out because of just safety concerns and injuries, and as I said, things happen.
And looking at the ladies, unfortunately, this is when Chasa had a big off. She was absolutely cooking on day 1 and day 2 and trying to keep things going, even trying to snap on the heels of the top 10 there. I was quite worried myself. And unfortunately, though, she went down in a very bad way, broke her collarbone, got very concussed. She proceeded to get onto a motorcycle because she was in the middle of the mountains trying to get herself into a more reachable area, and ended up just basically passing out because of the pain and because of her situation. Luckily, Paul Torres, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
Found her, and they called the medical services, and she got helivaced out. So good going with the organizers and with the safety protocol. It's really good to know and to hear that these riders that are in desperate need for help can get help in a relatively quick time frame.
Yes, that is true.
That's so devastating to hear, man, because she was absolutely hauling. I remember while keeping track of the live timing, there was one day where she was nipping at your heels, and I was like, man, for me, you hear about how good these women riders are, right? But I think as just being men, you obviously think, I don't want to get too deep into it, but you know what I mean. And that's really unfortunate for her. Hopefully she's able to make a recovery soon and get back on the bike, and devastating the day before the final day. That's how it goes. But shame. Glad she's all right.
Yeah.
Taryn, you I think spoke to or saw her after that off-road day 3. What was her comment with you?
Yeah, not stoked. You could see she was genuinely a bit devastated and obviously in pain, so emotional. There's a lot going on, I think, through your mind after doing so well. Probably being one of your best performances, especially at a Romaniacs, and then to slip on or hit a tree or a log and go flying and break a collarbone. I mean, devastating, but stoked that she was able to get the help that she needed, but definitely seemed like when I spoke to her, she was heading back home to go get surgery and go get fixed up. But before I left, she was basically next year we give it a go. We see what we can do, which is amazing. I mean, to be so determined to be you know what, I'm not going to let this get the better of me and the better of the situation and put me off. I'm going to stay determined and give it another shot next year. I thought that was really impressive.
So how did the girls end up on off-road day 3? Where are we standing?
So on day 3 in the silver class, we have Sandra Gomez sitting on day 3. She's sitting in 24th. We have Kirsten Landman sitting in 106th, also in that class. Tassa, I think, was running around 16th, but then obviously had her accident. Carolina in the iron class, she was sitting in 66th, and then Julia was sitting in 53rd in the iron class. So girls are pushing, they're doing well. Majority of them, well, about half of the ones that entered have now made it to qualify to race that last day.
Awesome. And then for the other classes, what do we have there for the day finish and then overall?
Okay, so for the day finish for the bronze class, in 3rd was Josh Kirby, 2nd David Ignat, and 1st was Eli Cobb.
I would like to comment on this because these guys were hauling. Sorry, can you go back? Eli and David. David, a Romanian, so a local, and Eli Cobb, an Australian rider. His first time riding Red Bull Romaniacs as well. We had the opportunity to ride quite a bit together in Prologue as well as off-road day 1 and day 2. And day 3, he was cooking. I tried my best to stay with these two riders because they started behind me on that day. So whoever passed me, I saw it as an opportunity to try to up my own pace. I stayed with him for about 20 Ks, and then straight after that, they just completely dropped me. And you can see it in the times as well. They showed all the boys some speed on that day, so really cool to see.
Yeah, so that's on the day. And then overall for bronze, we have Mark in 3rd, Josh in 2nd, and Kevin Gallus in 1st.
one more point is actually that you can see how those first 2 days make such a difference to that overall standing. It's
Yes.
like Matt was saying, like wherever you're coming in that first day 1 and day 2 is basically where you're going to end up roughly. And you can see it actually play out in these classes.
Yeah, good point. And then for silver for the day, we have Cornell Ott in third, Ben Wibley in second, and Chris Birch in first. And then overall, Patrick Reglis third, Chris Birch second, and Cornell Ott in first. And then we head over to our gold class riders. For the day, Wade in third, Manny in second, and Mario in first. But then going to the overall, you have Theodore in third, Mario in second, and Manny in first.
I think this day as well, I might be mistaken, and maybe you can fill me in on this. I know gold, silver, bronze all ride different loops, sections, and so on. But I remember Manny saying that the marking on the track was pretty horrid. Did you find that to be the case?
No, I didn't. I think it was pretty open. I had a few riders in front of me as well. I think Manny was one of the first riders to go out. So there you suffering a little bit from, trying to open the track as well as racing the track. But yeah, for sure, he's on different loops and different sections than what we are as well. So less riders are going through these sections, so less visible. That's why they have the GPSs though. So from a marking perspective, when Martin in the riders briefing said, if you're not sure, follow the GPS. Don't follow the markers, follow the GPS, because the GPS is going to be your most trusted source of navigation.
Okay, that's good to hear. Also, with Martin, now that you mention him, I also saw that he needs to make sure that each section is rideable.
Right.
Does that mean that old Mart sends these sections? Is that correct?
He does. He actually saw on Lead Live Maniacs and some of the footage that he was actually up on these sections. Very slow compared to the top riders, but yeah, he's trying. He's up there. Him and his son as well are giving the beans up these sections.
That's awesome.
Giving it a go. I think the idea is that it needs to be rideable in order to be in the race. There's, I think, obviously it's very different for being a rider or a racer tackling this for the first time in a race condition. You're pushing and you're racing and you're doing something for the first time, whereas for him, he's probably done those sections 10 times to find the right line to figure it out. So when we finally see the video on like those Lead Live replays of him doing the section, he's probably done it a couple times. So I think it's a bit different. Yes, it's rideable, but when you've done it 10 times, you know how to ride it. If you're doing it your first time, a lot more challenging, right?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, and that just got me leading to something else. There was a section, and I'm guessing it was just for bronze. It was called Via Garota,
Okay.
I believe. I'm not too sure. Did you ride that?
If it was bronze, and yeah, then I probably did ride it. What about it? If you can explain it a bit.
Okay, no, actually, now that I think about it, no, you know what? I'm wrong. It's definitely gold because it was on Lead Live Maniacs, so it had to be.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing this section and they were all like raving about it, like, okay, this is going to be it. And Manny comes through and they're like, well, okay, here we go. Let's like get into it. And this guy, bro, I don't get it. Like, I don't get like how he is so good.
Yeah.
Like how he is so good, man. And just watching him attack this section that was apparently meant to be extremely difficult, and I might be on the wrong day here, but I remember it was called Via Garota, and just to see this guy maul it through there, it was incredible, man.
Yeah, we spoke with Mitch and Ashton after the race. We had dinner with them and just chatting, and they were just saying with like Manny, he just doesn't make mistakes. I think that the level of all of the riders is there. They're all as spectacular as each other, but Manny just doesn't make mistakes. He just limits the amount of mistakes, and that's at the end of the day, that's where he makes his time. He just doesn't slip down the ravine. He doesn't, slide down the off camber. He just seems to manage it, and I think that's the biggest difference between these top riders, because they're all capable. They all have the skill. They're all incredibly good at what they're doing, but it's who can do it without making any mistakes, I think, is the difference.
You actually raised such a valid point there. Like, that is the difference, right? Because you never see him making mistakes. And something that got me thinking now is like, if someone gets stuck, right? Like if I think of an extremely long uphill, right? Manny will attack it. He'll hit it. If he gets even 3/4 of the way, I've noticed he will sometimes tend to like turn around and send it again, right? Whereas like a lot of the other guys, they'll see how far they can get, jump off there, and then try and like struggle to the end, probably also using a lot more energy. And but yeah, from Ashton and Mitch, like I never noticed that actually. That is it. That Manny just makes so many or so minimal mistakes.
Yes. Yeah. So let's head into the final day. Off-road day 4. Yes, this is it. Ready for that final finish, that final hill, that final flag. I feel like everyone is extremely tired and drained, but like ready, you know?
At this point, your hands have blisters, your bum is chafed, your bones and your muscles are sore, but none of that matters because you know by the end of the day it will all be done. And yeah, it's just to get to the finish line. Yeah, off-road day 4 for me, quite a whirlwind of emotion. I must be honest. It was definitely probably the worst day of riding. I was having a good day, but just in general, I think that things just didn't go my way the way that I wanted to, and I didn't want to lose my position in the top 10. So a lot was on the line, I think, for me.
Yeah, it was a bit of a challenging day for you, for sure. Following the live timing, you know, I can't be at the start. I can't be everywhere. So I chose to be at that final finish. And, you know, keeping track of Brandon, trying to see all of his times, trying to see how he's going. Checkpoint 3, checkpoint 4, checkpoint 5, no checkpoint 5. All of a sudden, there's a checkpoint missing. And I'm like, well, this is now slightly problematic. I'm pretty sure if you miss a checkpoint, there's a penalty. So then all of a sudden, checkpoint 6 rocks up. And I'm like, did he miss a checkpoint? Like, what is going on? And I'm thinking to myself, I know as soon as he gets into the service point, he's got like 20 minutes before he needs to get out again. Should I call him or should I just not say anything? It's like the biggest mental game because I'm like, if I don't tell him, he might be upset that no one told him. He's going to be like, well, why didn't someone just say something? But then if I do tell him, then I know it's going to like create like a whole different scenario. So what did I do? I told him.
I get into the service point, 20-minute decontrol. I'm home straight. The finish line's in sight. I'm having a right day, keeping it up on 2 wheels, not making too many big mistakes, just keeping her where she is. And I get a phone call, which is a bit odd, in the middle of the mountains in my backpack. So I'm like, okay, who could this be? See that it's Taryn. So I answer. I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? She's like, yeah, like, how are you doing? Like, how are you feeling and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I feel pretty good. I just need to get to the finish line.
Great, just finished checkpoint 5. I'm wonderful.
And she says to me, you missed checkpoint 5. And I'm like, wait, say it again. She's like, yeah, you missed checkpoint 5. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I went through it. But at this day, it's day 4. We're just concentrating on riding a motorcycle now. Like, my brain is mush, to be honest. Like, I've been through a lot this last.
What is checkpoint 5?
Yeah, and I'm trying to recall, like, in my head, if I remember seeing checkpoint 5, if I went through it. And I was like, I followed the GPS. My GPS was a bit whack as well, so I followed the blue tape. But I know Martin said we should follow the GPS. My GPS was a bit whack, so I'm thinking, did I miss checkpoint 5? And I went on the live timing, and my name was in 40th position. I just dropped like a stone. I'm sitting there going, no ways is this happening on my last day. I had it in the bag and now I've lost it. So anyways, I left that service point with a firecracker lit under my ass. And I was determined that any penalty that I was going to get for missing checkpoint 5, I was going to make that time back, or as much time of that as back as possible getting to this finish line. So I did risk my life on so many occasions, which paid off. I pulled so much time, but then because I was just not thinking super clearly, got stuck in a bog, lost all that time back. And then we all the riders, I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this and you did Red Bull Romaniacs and you, after the GPS hand-in on off-road day 4, you have basically a small liaison to the end, to the finish line, and there was a train tracks there. And everyone we knew had a story about these train tracks. And it was basically, it looked like a sweet little double over the train tracks, but on the other side, it was just a drop off, a cement hole that was just like perfectly positioned to end people's lives. And I think all of us have a story about going over this, clipping our front wheel, going over the bars, which I did, bent the bars, landed next to with my head next to the cement hole in the ground, thinking, what on earth is going on? I'm 3 kilometers away from the end of this race. At that point, I luckily didn't injure myself, so I got up and I just ended up finishing. Turns out that it was a buffer in the system, and checkpoint 5 was in fact there, but it just didn't register online. So
in the end, Brandon did do checkpoint 5 actually.
I did get to checkpoint 5, but the moral of the story is, rather don't tell your husband. just let him be.
Just let him be.
Just let him be, because he will risk his life, to get to that finish line.
But did you or did you not finish in the top 10?
I did.
Well,
I did. I'm very happy about that. I didn't have much expectations, and yeah, it was a good ride at the end of it. But yeah, checkpoint 5 will forever be remembered haunt me inside my brain. But to come back onto those train tracks once more, it's so crazy that we were in the elevator in the hotel and we see someone with Red Bull Romaniacs gear on or merch, and you say like, oh, you immediately start conversation. How was your ride? What class? Blah blah blah. And I did this with 1 or 2 people, and I just said, the train tracks about 3 k's from the end, and everyone had a story. They just said, yeah, I just over the bars, almost killed myself inside the hole. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was some serious injuries there.
Oh, yeah.
I know that Mark Rieber, a gold class FIM Hard Enduro World Championship rider, he actually broke his collarbone or like cracked a bone or something inside his shoulder, very bad injury, and had to finish the day, so do all those final hill climbs with a broken collarbone, because you're so close to the finish line, there's no chance that you're giving up there.
No, for sure not.
You are finishing the race, whatever it takes. And then also our fellow teammate from FN Racing, Rob Novak, Australian rider, he also had a story about this, quite a funny one. His the wires for his starter switch got ripped out, so he ended up having to hot wire his motorcycle there to try to get to the finish line. Kevin went down there, Eli Cobe went down there, so many guys had a story about this train track. So I'm really,
So next time, hopefully they take the train tracks out.
Or just mark it better, because it definitely needed a danger marking, because guys were just like piling up into there, what Rob was saying. So
yeah, that's not great.
This sounds like an episode out of like Squid Games. Right? Like Romaniacs. It's like an episode out of Squid Games. It's like you're either going to die or you're going to make it to the finish with one less limb, or like, it sounds like absolute chaos. And like throughout the day, it's like day 3, they leave you a chainsaw. Day 4, they leave you like a cement block on a landing.
But for day 4, we started and ended in Sibiu. So it wasn't a marathon stage. We basically did exactly the same as what we did on off-road day 1. We got to the paddock in the morning, collected the GPS, liaison to off-road day, start, and then begin the race. The only difference there was that we handed our GPSs in a little bit before the finish line, so that the marshals and the organizers could download the data and make sure that the results were actually in fact the way that they were. So, and that there wasn't any like penalties that needed to be handed out for the top 3, so they could do prize giving at the final hill climb. And also for you guys listening, the Atom and Iron riders did not have to complete that final hill climb, but the bronze, silver, and gold riders did have to complete that hill climb. And I made the mistake for not giving it a try. You take the chicken line and you think, oh, okay, cool, chicken line, it should be a little bit easier. And there's a guy on the floor just in front of me. I don't know what he was doing, playing games or something. And
praying.
And I asked him like, oh, where do we go? Do we just go along this ridge here and then turn left on the dirt road or something? And he's like, no, and he just points up. And it's this super gnarly off-camber like ledge. And I'm sitting there going like, this is worse than that main hill climb for sure. Ended up getting up there first try, which I'm really grateful for. But just word of advice, the chicken line there in that final amphitheater area is more difficult than the final hill climb. So give that hill climb a go at the best as you can try.
Yeah, we definitely, because I managed to make it up that hill. So I was just about at the top of that hill. I got a really good view, and it was interesting. Like those top riders just flew up that hill. Very impressive, don't get me wrong. but we also saw some big drops down that hill, like bikes flying, people just skiing down. And funny enough that you talk about the chicken lines, we saw countless riders not make it, go into the chicken line, and all of a sudden come out the chicken line and back down the hill, because basically they were like, I'm not doing that chicken line. I'd rather go up this hill and make the hill than do that chicken line. So it makes a lot of sense. But for something that I think a lot of viewers, if you weren't there, you didn't know, that there were actually 2 hills on that last day. Like there's the main hill climb, but then just next to that there's another hill section that the gold, silver and bronze still need to make it up in order to get to the finish, and that actually was so much worse than the main hill. Like the amount of carnage and bottlenecks that we saw on that hill was very entertaining. It was you know what, you finish the race, you sit under the Red Bull tent, you get your beer, you get your pasta, and then you just sit and watch the carnage on the hill. That's kind of how we finished our Red Bull Romaniacs day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's absolutely beautiful.
The point there is a sweet nectar of a beer went down so well.
You want to have a beer?
No,
that's beer?
I'm okay, bro.
No? Won't tell the wife. But sorry. Back to day 4. That Liet Live Maniacs, that day 4 in the amphitheater was so cool to see, man. Like that shot of, like, I'm just thinking of the shot from over here with the hill going up and the Red Bull Arch. Like, it was awesome, man. And that chicken line, like you say, I think that was more entertaining. And like watching, just because obviously like people go off the side of the main line and then they line up, right? And you can just see on each like ledge, there's just like a gang of people at the bottom waiting to go up. But I saw that that final hill, it looked so intense. There were some close ones. I think it was either Mario or Alfredo, one of them. They were putting it up the hill and there's like this G out at the top, right? And there was someone crashed in the middle.
Mario.
Was it Mario?
It was Mario.
This guy, man, sends it up the wall like this around and then straight up under the arches. Like
it was genuinely insane. I was literally standing there watching with my own 2 eyes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what on earth is happening? This is insane. Like I literally have goosebumps just thinking about it. It was really crazy. It was wild. Like to be there and to see the steepness of this hill and then to see him pull and move like that, I was just like, man's got moves. Man's got moves.
Hey.
Chris, I have a question for you. Are you hitting that FMF jump at the end, eh?
You don't know me, boy. You don't know me.
Soft
I'm going to hit it
suspension.
twice. Go ahead. I hit that jump twice, boy. I mean,
it's not looking good for you.
It's not looking good for me. It's not looking good. Okay. That jump at the end, yes, actually it did pique my interest. When I saw that lift, I was like, whoop. That's me. That's me. That's where I come in. But awesome to see that at the end, a cool little feature before going out under the bridge. But something, when I was watching it, I was like, man, I just want to lay it over there. But obviously it's not like big enough. The landing's a little bit sketch. Boys' bikes aren't made for it. But it got me thinking, like, for motocross guys, right, you're cranking it and you're like coming out of a corner and there's a perfectly graded lip and you just crank one over, turn the bars down, check out the chicks on the side, give them a little thumbs up, blow them a kiss, you know, like that's how we do it, right?
That's how you do it.
So it got me thinking, like, what is the equivalent of that for enduro riders? Like, what is the equivalent of just laying a pancake out over a jump?
I think it's definitely clearing a super intimidating section, feet on the pegs, in full control, and that you are basically getting to the top and you are ready. It's set for the next section, like no problem. I think that's like the equivalent of doing it. Like, I think the risk reward ratio though is a little bit maybe higher on the off-road side, because if you don't make it inside the off-road side or in the enduro side, then it's a lot of the time game over.
Yeah, you're
With motocross, it's like it's game over, but there's some way to bring it back. There's always a landing. There's always
like I said, perfectly manicured lip. So there's a perfectly manicured landing, and it's all cut out. You're not riding on a path like this, right? And if you do crash, like sure, you could hurt yourself, but you're not going to die like enduro.
No,
You know?
the bike's definitely going to get scratched up. And
But that also makes me think of something now that you say, like enduro, for sure, it's a lot more dangerous in that aspect, right? Like it's a lot more dangerous when you looking down a cliff like this and it's you don't even know where the bottom is.
yeah.
Like, I mean, you coming to the peak of a mountain and like things can go so wrong, right? And we just heard about like Chassa and I think it was, who else broke their pinky toe?
Oh, Johnny.
And a couple of other guys. But it got me thinking, like, what is, like, were those the only injuries there? Or injuries far and few in between? Like, how does it work? Like, surely people must get horribly, like...
No, it's true. Honestly, we didn't really... I mean, we know that at Romaniacs is a tough race, but we didn't realize that it was a dangerous race until we were there and we spoke to riders, we spoke to nurses in the hospitals that are dedicated to helping Romaniacs competitors who maybe get hurt in the hospital. There are definitely injuries that we don't hear about, and obviously I think from a organizer's perspective they don't necessarily want people to hear about the dangers and what's going on, but like, I mean, yeah, people have broken their backs. They've been like paralyzed. Like things have happened at this race that we just don't know about because I guess no one talks about it. But there are definitely a lot of injuries. The hospitals or those assistants are quite overwhelmed with the people that they have to help from the race. So yes, there are injuries. It is a dangerous sport. But yeah, it's difficult to find, I think, the line between understanding that there is risk. It's hard enduro, it's a dangerous sport, like you know what you're getting yourself into. There's a difference between that and then from the organizer side of like being like, okay, we're setting a tough race, not a dangerous race. Like for a lot of the riders to be pulling out because they are scared or they feel that it is too dangerous, I think for me personally, I feel like that might be a bit of a red flag. So hopefully something that they consider in the years to come. I mean, I know that every year is supposed to be tougher than the last, more difficult than the last, but I don't know. I don't think it needs to be more dangerous than the last. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, if you're doing these kind of events, like surely you know what you're signing up for, right? And like it is part of the sport, but you've got to still keep it as safe as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, like you don't want people dying, right? Or like getting, and it's like in any sport it's possible, right? Yeah. And I mean, I guess this is why it's called hard enduro and why I don't do it because I'm scared. Or like I'm not like scared of dying or any, like I just I don't want to be there when it happens. So that's why I avoid enduros. Hard enduro specifically.
Oh, that's the reason, I guess.
Yeah.
So
what are you trying to say?
No, I'm trying to say
you're calling me short.
Trying to say there's definitely more reasons that you told me we'd be out in the mountains here. Why you hate this so much.
Yeah, but if I had to get into it now, there'd be a lot of bleeping. So
yeah,
topic
PG.
for another day.
It's a PG. So let's get into the final results. It's off-road day 4. Where did everyone end up?
This is a great question. So I'm going to try to go through all of the classes for the overall final results. So in Atom class, in third, we've got Dimitri, then Valentin, and then Alexander. From Canada, correct. Then in the iron class, we've got Konstantinos, Peter, and Demetrius in first. In the bronze class, in third, it's David Ignat from Romania, Josh Kirby from Great Britain, and Kevin Gallus from Germany. In our silver class, we've got Patrick Riegler, Chris Birch from New Zealand, and Cornel Ott from Hungary. And then your gold finishers overall podium. Third, Mario Roman. Second, Theodor Kabachev. And first, Manny Littenbeck.
What are the time differences in the gold class between Theodor and Mario?
That's a great question.
That was close.
Overall, so it's 4 days of racing.
Between Theodor and Mario, the time was 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes between second and third position.
And total race time for the third place?
So for Mario, he had 23 hours, 57 minutes, And then Theodore had 23 hours and 55 minutes.
So in 24 hours of racing,
Just about
2 minutes
2
between
minutes
them.
between them, yeah, more or less.
They racing.
That's
You don't want to
honest.
lose 2 minutes.
No,
Yeah.
I would rather not. I would rather lose by like 10.
Yes.
Like I would much rather,
But-
than like coming that close and then getting.
But you know
kicked
how
straight
much
in
Manny won by?
30 minutes.
33.
Day one.
Day
They
one, boy.
won. That
Day
brings
one.
us back to your point of that
Now we
que-
can
now
come full
we-
circle.
exactly
And
full
answer.
circle and answer the
So
question.
we've done the liaison.
Do you
back to
think
the start.
that Manny enjoys being the first one out?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think Manny enjoys coming first.
And then I would like to find out, where did the ladies end up at the final day? And then also the juniors. We need to know what was the standings and the situation with these badass juniors.
Okay, so let's go for the ladies. So in the silver class, you had Sandra, who came in 25th overall. You have Kirsten, who came in 97th overall. Unfortunately, Tassa was disqualified. In the iron class, you have Carolina, who came in 30th in the iron class. And the last one to finish was Julia, who came in 48th. And those are your women finishers for the 2024 Red Bull Romaniacs.
How many of them are there? Sorry, just
There
to
were
confirm.
8 who entered, but 4 who finished. So 50%
Good
completion
going,
rate.
girls. Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome.
And then
Phenomenal.
the juniors.
Well, with regards to the juniors, let's go into the FIM results.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about where our now championship riders, both pro and juniors, are standing after round 4 of the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship. So in your pros, you've got Manny in first with 67 points, Wade in second with 62, Mario in with third with 62 points, Theodore in fourth with 57 points, and Mitch Brightmore in fifth with 50 points. So this is your championship standings.
Right.
In the junior championship, Mitch is entered as well into the pro and the junior. So in the junior, Mitch is standing in first with 88 points. Ashton in second with 73 points. Richard Morehouse in third with 51 points. Robert Crayston in fourth with 43. And James Moore in fifth with 41 points.
Solid riding. And Mitch has been on an absolute tear this year.
Wow.
He's
Impressive.
perfect season.
Yeah.
It looks like a perfect season can come his way if he keeps up these results.
It's scary. It's scary for the future. Like the guy is fifth as a junior.
Yeah.
As a
It's
junior.
impressive. Yeah.
And his brother's not far behind.
No.
And the way that they are training and what are they doing inside the UK together, it just seems like their program is fun. It's enjoyable. They are very connected to their trials background and their trial skills, and yeah, it seems really good for them, and they're looking positive for the future.
And just before we end off, I think a very important point is that the woman who received the Women's Hard Enduro Performance Award, supported by 24MX, is Sandra Gomez. So she went home with that award at the end of this race.
Awesome.
Yeah. I saw the picture of her receiving the award. She seems stoked, and it's so
Yes.
cool to just see another face up there, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get like too many women riders. Unfortunately, it's a male-dominated sport.
Yep.
So to see like, not only are there so many competing, but so many with a similar level, right?
Yeah.
Like that, you don't get someone who's just dominating each 24MX award. It's
Yes.
a different face every time.
Yeah. So I'd like to just tell you who our women finishers were for the 2024 Red Bull Romaniacs. And we're starting off with the Women's Hard Enduro Performance Awards, supported by 24MX, which is Sandra Gomez. She came 25th in the silver class with a 23-hour and 19-minute ride time. You have Kirsten Landman, who came 97th in the silver class with a 36-hour and 46-minute ride time. You have Tassa, who is an honorable mention in the bronze class. She was running around 13th on day 2, but unfortunately had a broken collarbone. You have Julia Bittner, who came in 48th in the iron class with a 25-hour, 20-minute ride time. And last finisher, for the women's section was Carolina, who came 30th in the iron class with a 19 hours and 33 minute ride time. Congratulations to all the women who finished and completed the Red Bull Romaniacs.
All right, so that pretty much ends the episode. We are looking forward to the next race in the calendar for this year, heading all the way over to the States for the TKO, Tennessee Knockout. Let's see what the boys can do there. It's usually quite a cool event, a lot of hype in America, a lot of good riders in America. We'll obviously see the likes of Cody Webb, Tristan Hart, the good old FIM versus US battle coming on here.
Let's
So
see.
yeah, let's see.
That's going to be super interesting to see. I didn't even think of that. I was just about to say this has been the most excited I've been to cover a race, but actually I might have to swallow my words by the next episode, because that sounds like quite a good one.
So if you guys have made it to the end of this podcast, we know it's been quite a lengthy one. Truly, thank you from all of us here at the World Hard Enduro podcast. And also shout out to my co-hosts Chris and Taryn. You guys are the best, and I really do enjoy talking some shit about off-road bikes with you guys. And yeah, if you are interested in following us on social media, be sure to hit us up on the Instagram account. We have a YouTube channel as well, and yeah, we will be growing this thing, so watch out.
1 minute before we go, I want to congratulate you, our co-host Brandon, on finishing the Romaniacs rally. That is incredible. Well done. Hats off. Super proud of you. And you get one of these. Well done.
Yes, eh? From the organizer himself, the man himself, eh?
We.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. See you in the next one. Don't forget to
And gas, boy!